And a good Thursday morning, football fans, specifically you Eagle fans. It is officially draft day, or at least the first round. We're here with you for the next 2 hours. John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Sorry, we're a couple of minutes late, and we were either doing our final prep for the draft or arguing about the star power of Orange Cassidy. You can guess which. You can guess which one it actually was. Johnny Mackett is here. We've been waiting weeks, months for draft day to arrive. And it's not just us here at Birds 365 because we're Eagle devotees, but they are one of only 3 teams that as of now are scheduled to make 2 picks in the first round. There are 3 teams with no picks in the first round and 3 teams with 2 picks in the second round. The Eagles are one of those. Yeah, Houston's picking 2 and 12, so theirs are a little bit more significant than 10 and 30. But still, there are only 3 teams with 2 picks, and the Eagles are one of them. And we expect Howie Roseman to be a mover and a shaker and talking to everybody and potentially dealing up and dealing down. We got 20 minutes here before we punch up our first guest, Jeff Kerr. So I'm going to ask you to do a little crystal ball work for us today. At number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles, as of now, are scheduled to select at number 10. I asked you to put percentage on it yesterday, and you gave me more likely to trade up than anything else. You went, I think it was 50, 40, and 12.
40,
or maybe that
40,
was
30, 30.
40, 30, 30.
But mainly because I don't know if they can trade. I think they want to trade up. So if you put want, I would go much higher. I would go 75, 80. I think they want to get one of those pass rushers. Jalen Carter's in that conversation. Different types, obviously, interior, outside. Although, strangely, and I mentioned it yesterday, I haven't heard anything on Will Anderson. I assume they like him, but I haven't heard anything with the Eagles and Will Anderson. I know they like Tyree Wilson a lot. And now it seems pretty clear they also like Paris Johnson a lot. So, but I don't think they would move up to go get the offensive lineman. The pass rushers, though, I think that makes sense to me. And I think they want to go up. The question is, can they go up? And
right.
that's the bigger question.
And that's the reason why my percentage, excuse me, a little lower than yours on the potential trade up. I think it's more difficult than in other years, or that Eagle fans would like to think the Eagles can move up. It's pretty costly to move up in the top of the first round. When you're in the top 10, and I'm not just referring to Jimmy Johnson's trade chart, but it still does have some play in the National Football League. I've had draft guys on, not necessarily here on Birds 365, but on my radio shows over the last several years, and most of them told me, yeah, the teams all have it handy. They all have it in their draft room. They all refer to it. Sometimes they'll say, we want to do a deal, even though we're not getting the correct value in return. Don't care, want to do it. It's not a mandate, but it is a guideline that they still use. And moving up in a draft from 10 to whatever you need to get the player that you want can be pretty damn expensive. And oh, by the way, the Eagles don't have the draft capital on the back end to make those kind of deals without a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th round pick heading into this draft. So I'm of the belief that despite the fact that they may want to, I don't know that they're going to be capable of. And I just jotted this down this morning, and we've been talking about all these players for months now. Who do you think is going to be there when the Eagles pick? If I give you Anderson and Wilson off the board, can we agree with that they would have to get up really high to get either one of those 2 guys?
Yeah. I think, again, Will's kind of a strange one to me because, I don't know, he might fall a little bit, but I don't think there's any way he's going to fall to 10. So, yeah, I would agree with that. And then you have the quarterbacks, and then you start. Now it looks like, Witherspoon is a guy the NFL seems to like more than the average draftnik, shall we say. And I think, it had been Gonzalez. Now it seems like Witherspoon is probably going to be the first corner off the board. But that's that's a little shaky. And then the quarterbacks, Aaron Wilson had a report out this morning that Tennessee's trying to get up to 3 to get CJ Stroud. Um, and that would change things dramatically. And by the way, when you talk about trade ups, Jody, when teams are going up to get a quarterback, they're willing to pay more.
Overpay, yes.
Yeah. So that makes it more difficult for you to move up for a positional player if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, it's easier said than done, but I do think they want to go up.
Here's the key guy for me, and I'll just take your opinion on this right here, right now. In the top 9 picks before the Philadelphia Eagles, how many quarterbacks go? It's got to be 2.
Yeah.
It's probably 3. The question is, will it be 4?
I don't think it's going to be 4.
You think
I had
gonna be
2.
3?
I had 2, and now if Tennessee wants to go up and get Stroud, or there was a lot of speculation they might wait and try
of your
to go.
2, you did not have Stroud as one of the 2. You had Stroud falling down past 10?
No, mine was Indianapolis, like sort of what their flavor they want is. So what I've heard is Irsay, I think it's Chris Ballard likes Levis, I believe. I have to look it up. Chris Ballard likes Levis, the assistant GM likes Stroud, and I think Shane would like to replicate what they've done here with Richardson, with that RPO like offense. He's seen it, up close. He's seen what it does. So it's kind of a, like, if it were me, I would give it, I would say I hired Shane to do the job. I would give him what he wants if it were me. I don't think Chris Ballard's going to do that. I think he's going to take who he's going to take. And it's between Levis and Stroud. So, I would take Stroud, certainly. What are they going to do? I have no idea.
Here's the way that I think it's going to shake out. And if you're an Eagle fan, I think you need to root for this. And you can root for trade up for Carter all you want if they can do it and pay a reasonable price. More power to them. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. Or Tyree Wilson trapping gap. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the 2 top edge rushers will be gone. I think Carter will not fall. I think Carter's coming off the board at 5. So I think Seattle's going to take him. So I don't think the Eagles get the chance there. I think this is a replication of the 2021 draft, which you talk about a lot, John, how the Eagles ended up with Devontae Smith. Oh, they were going to take a cornerback. There was going to be a cornerback that was going to come to them. And then boom, boom, 2 cornerbacks come off the board right in a row, right before the Eagles were scheduled to draft, or excuse me, a couple picks before the Eagles scheduled to draft. That's why they had to move back up to get Devontae Smith, because they didn't want to get shut out of the group of players that they had. This year's even better because they're not necessarily targeting a cornerback. So if Witherspoon and the Oregon kid both come off the board at, say, 7, 8, 8, 9, that means the Eagles will have their choice of either of the top 2 offensive linemen, Skoronski or Paris Johnson, and or any of the other pass rushing defensive ends not named Anderson and or Wilson from Texas A&M. If that's the case, they got their choice of the other defensive ends, edge guys, and both offensive linemen. That's a pretty good group of 5 to be picking out of. I like Myles Murphy, but I don't think he's going at number 10. So I'm putting him in the mix for the sake of this conversation, even though I don't think the Eagles are going to take him. If that's their group that they're choosing from at 10, do they either take one? Do they roll the dice and try and trade down a little bit and still get one of those guys? Assuming the 9 off the board are 4 quarterbacks, the 2 edge rushers, Carter, and 2 cornerbacks. How do you think the Eagles play it at 10?
I think they take Paris Johnson if he's there. I think there are, Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, Paris Johnson, and I assume, and again, this is just an assumption, Will Anderson If any of those players are on the board, those are the players I think they would take. Anybody else, I've been hedging back and forth on Christian Gonzalez. I don't think they take Witherspoon. I think they like Gonzalez better than Witherspoon.
So do I.
Obviously, we can cross the quarterbacks off. You don't have to worry about that. But the other group, then I think it's tier 2 for them. And then I think it's about trading down. Now, but again, same thing with trading up. There's a lot of things you want to do. You got to be able to do it. You got to be able to. And that's what I think, to be honest, what all this Bijan stuff is about.
So let me just, again, verify. If Paris Johnson is there, you think they take him?
Yes.
You think he's a tier 1 guy? If he falls to 10, boom, card goes in, they take him at 10.
Yes.
Yeah, so do I.
Anybody else from that, other than that group, Carter, Wilson, I assume Anderson, Paris Johnson, anybody else, I think that's what the Bijan stuff is. And a lot of people are helping him. My buddy Elliot Short Parks is helping him. He's on the Bijan or bus train. Marcus Hayes is helping him. Howard's helping him by threatening to retire. That might get Howie to move. I joke with Howard, but it's I think that's what all that sort of Russell. I think they want to convince somebody to come up if he's still on the board, and then move down a few spots, and then start the Nolan Smith, Lucas Van Ness, that group, the tier 2 group talk. That's what I think the plan is. That's what but again, just because you want to do something doesn't mean you can do something. But the 4 players I think they would take, if any of them fell to 10, are Wilson, Carter, Anderson, Paris Johnson.
All right. So where does Skoronski fall if he's tier 2?
He's in that tier 2.
Is he above the defensive ends in your mind?
I don't think so. And that's just a feel. That's not a report. I don't think so. Just knowing the Eagles, he's kind of a safe pick. I've seen that in comparison to Zach Martin. If he's going to turn into Zach Martin, and I say that for 2 reasons. One, I remember Zach Martin was one of the cleanest, safest prospects ever. If he played left tackle in college. And I said, well, he couldn't play left tackle. Yeah, he could. But they didn't project him to play left tackle. But I remember talking to a scout, and he said, all right, if he doesn't, you can move him to guard. He's going to be an all-pro.
Yep.
He can play both guards. He can play right tackle. Sure enough, he's going to the Hall of Fame already. From the Eagles standpoint, I think they lean towards ceiling, and he's, I think safe is almost a bad word. Now, if he can turn into Zach Martin, I'll take him right now. I'll run up and get the card in it. I just don't see the upside. That's why I think they like Paris Johnson more than Peter Skoronski, because he's got a higher ceiling.
And by the way, it's funny you make the comparison with Zach Martin. That was the Johnny Manziel year that Jerry Jones desperately wanted to pick Johnny Manziel, and they had to tie him to a chair. They end in the card for Zach Martin. Could we be looking at the same thing with Bijan Robinson down the road? Eagles take Skoronski, and Bijan Robinson goes several picks thereafter. Now, I'm not suggesting that Bijan's going to be Johnny Manziel, because I think Bijan's going to be a hell of a player, and Johnny Manziel was a stone-cold bust. But a much more well-known name was there, and at least one person in the organization wanted to take him. They went into the trenches, took the offensive linemen, and were much better off because of it, did the Cowboys, by taking Zach Martin instead of Johnny Manziel. All right, Johnny Mac, the Mac of Mac, Birds 365 guys. Draft day's here. We've been waiting for it for weeks. Glad to have it. You got some of Johnny and I's thoughts on this. First pick in the first round. The Eagles have a second pick. That's only one of the things we're going to talk with our first guest about. That would be Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. He joins us next here on Birds 365.